Hey everybody, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor at the Bulwark, and I have a treat. I rarely get to do this. I'm joined by Sarah Longwell. She usually tries to avoid me. I don't know why.
It's not true.
It's
not
true.
You never ask. You never ask, Sam.
I ask every day. I come in and I say, can I get a video time with Sarah? And I'm told she doesn't want to do one with you. Just JVL.
It's not a thing that happens.
It's true. It's true. Anyways, I finally got her to do with me, and we're going to be talking about a story that tickled me, and I'm probably angered Sarah a little bit. In the Wall Street Journal.
It didn't tickle me.
Oh, there were some funny parts. I'll get to that. It's in the Wall Street Journal. It's by Josh Dawsey, who is one of the great chroniclers of the Trump White House. This one's about Congress, though. More or less, it's about Trump basically realizing that he's made Congress his bitch. It's called Trump Feeling Emboldened, Pushes Agenda into Higher Gear. Sarah, you read it. Is my description wrong? Is that not the basis of this piece?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm trying to think about exactly what you found funny. I think
there's a part I'll get to it. Don't worry.
Okay,
Go on.
okay. Because it really is just it's sad. It's about the complete and total capitulation of the business community, of Congress. It's Trump basically sitting there being like, I can't believe it. They fought me last time. They gave me such a hard time. Now everything's easy. I can do everything. And he's absolutely right. I mean, there's no pushback coming from anywhere other than, I guess, the fact that Democrats are being unwilling to fund Congress right now. You know, we did an awesome show in New York over the weekend, and one of the questions that we were going around the horn on was, who's surprised you pleasantly? And I would say Democrats during this shutdown have surprised me pleasantly, but only because it's the very first real sign of life from them. And so there's a reason that Donald Trump is able to walk over everybody. And it's because everyone has just decided you can't fight this guy, especially, and this is where it comes from. It's not that Trump has a mandate, but he did win the popular vote, and he did win with all of his various baggage. And I think the lesson that especially our corporate leaders have taken from that and our congressional leaders have taken from that is like, there's no stopping this guy. We're just going to have to take it for the next 3.5 years, and then we'll see what happens. But nobody is acting like their hair's on fire or like there's something serious they can and should be trying to do to push back on it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point I hadn't really thought of, but if you were a corporate leader in 2017, and Trump had just won, but not with the popular vote, and immediately you saw the Women's March and the backlash to this and the shock and revulsion, and people going out to the airports and protesting the Muslim ban stuff, and just like there was just clearly a collective revulsion over this, and you could basically say, oh, the consumer sentiment is clear. Like, if I want to keep my customers, I got to be, seen as not acquiescing to this guy. If you're a corporate CEO in 2025, guy just won the popular vote, and there's little of that, and you probably think, I got to actually stay in this man's good graces because he's vindictive. So I do think there's different incentives here.
Yeah, and he's vindictive, and Democrats aren't really. Like, they're a lot more afraid of Trump and him being in power in a way that they're just not afraid of Democrats, and they're afraid of Trump voters in a way that they're not afraid of. I mean, like, I think the Washington Post and Disney Plus and some of these places where people have been able to flex their disdain for Donald Trump by, canceling a subscription, like that gets Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. But I would say that the zeal and passion and commitment of MAGA voters to, say, taking down a brand like Bud Light for having a trans spokesperson.
Or Netflix recently. They're doing that with Netflix, yeah.
I just think they have made Republican voters, Republican leaders, Republican influencers on social media, they have been feeling themselves, and they have got everybody running scared that they have the power to take them down. There's a real sense among these guys that the culture has shifted decidedly away from the incentives that they thought were there before to be more, I don't want to sort of play into the woke stuff, but just more socially conscious as a corporation, that was the way to consumers' hearts. And they do not think that anymore.
Right. And I don't want to go tit for tat, but like Democrats, liberals were doing this, right? But it was not to I don't know if it was to this degree. For instance, they demanded like Major League Baseball not have its All-Star game in Atlanta, right? Because of the voting legislation there. They weren't saying don't ever show up at Major League Baseball games, but maybe they were. I could misremember. The other thing is collective action as an issue. So this story had this incredible anecdote where all the tech CEOs were just really upset with some of the worker visa policies that Trump is going to be implementing, and they're kind of all waiting to say something to the guy when they met with him. And then they met with him and no one had the, audacity to speak up and say anything. It was for the $100,000 for per H-1B visa policy that they were going to introduce. And so they just stayed quiet. They just sat there and they just didn't do anything. And so he doesn't get pushback because no one wants to be the single person who has to start the pushback.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's audacity so much as just like the guts, right? I know you're just looking for the right word, but everybody has shown themselves like they have been weighed, they have been measured, they have been found wanting when it comes to courage, right? Like they are enormous cowards. I do also, what freaks me out is on one hand, I get in a fight with JVL every time he tries to talk about Trump 2028. Like Trump's going to run again. Trump's going to be the nominee. And I'm always like, I'll just say, I want to make a distinction between that, which I think is not a real threat, and different threats, which is Trump just not leaving. Like the idea of like part of what I was thinking about when I was reading this story is about how Trump feels not just emboldened, but this idea of like, no one is standing in my way. No one is going to stand up to me. Like everything he pressure tests, there's no police that come in and say, you cannot do this. Yeah, there's nobody. Yeah. No, everybody's just like, sir, with tears in your eyes, go ahead and do this to us.
Well, let me push back. Yeah. There's been a couple. So yes, I agree with that. But this is such a weak pushback. So take it.
Well, go ahead. Give it to me.
The Jimmy Kimmel thing. Like Ted Cruz did speak up and say, this is not good. Don't like it, don't want it. And then Brendan Carr kind of took his foot off the gas, right? Like when they have faced a little bit of pushback, it has worked somewhat. I don't know.
Oh, that's not what I thought you were going to push back on. I thought you were going to push back on this contention that I'm mistaken to think that people are overblowing this idea of like Trump.
How do you
Trump
know
can
what
run
the
again?
Hell? Yeah.
No. No, but I do believe. No, actually, I don't think that's weak pushback. I think that's good push. This idea of that people have agency when people do push back, right? Because this is the problem. He's being lulled into a real sense of security. Like nobody's going to stand up to him. And as soon as people do, they do back off, right? Like Jimmy Kimmel not only was reinstated by ABC because of the backlash and it was, I think, to some degree, the call was inside Bob Iger's house. His wife, who was a big free speech advocate, was like, you need to stop this. I also think all of the canceled Disney Plus subscriptions, the backlash in general, I think being out there in Hollywood where there were a lot of people who were friends with Jimmy Kimmel saying, knock this, so pushback really does matter. And I think that it is like, I'm looking forward to the No Kings protest because my hope is that it isn't an enormous showing of force. And by force, I just mean like bodies in the street saying we don't approve of this. Because I do think we need to turn the vibes around because the vibes really are nobody can stop Trump. Nobody's doing anything about Trump. And that is no good.
Yeah, there's sporadic. There's like little bits of pushback here and there, but it's nothing major. So like you have Kevin Stitt being like, the National Guard should not be deployed from Texas to Illinois. You have obviously the Ted Cruz instance. Occasionally a Republican will speak out about the appropriations process and be like, we don't like this, but like, that's it. I mean, that's it. And he just says a pound sand. I mean, I guess like the Indiana Republicans haven't done redistricting yet, but like we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here for moments. So
I think we are. They do seem, there are some people. So one of the interesting things to me is when there's an admonishment about Trump shouldn't do this, they don't say, for pure because it's wrong reasons.
It's mostly because what happens
Democrats
if it's turned on us?
Democrats could do this to us. And honestly, I think that is both BS, but I also think it is important that people have some sense of, and this is why I don't love the sort of fait accompli about we're not going to have elections in 2026 or it won't be, fair 2028. No, they have They have to believe, we have to believe you to do everything. Winning Congress in 2026 is enormously important for oversight reasons. Donald Trump is so fearful of oversight from Democrats, so fearful that they will start to have hearings, that what they are doing to people, dragging them in front of Congress, going after Comey, going after political enemies, the people in Trump's shop should be afraid that that kind of turnabout turns into fair play. They should not want that to happen. And I think that Democrats should be clear, like, you guys break these rules. Like, if these are the new rules, it's a real problem. And I do think I've never liked this, because I always feel like when it gets into a real, Hatfields versus McCoys, Capulets versus Montagues, we're in just a backlash, like a vortex of backlashes that leads straight to the bottom. On the other hand, I don't think you can decide that, or if Republicans think there is no world in which there is accountability for their actions, they are acting entirely like there is no accountability for what they're doing. And you have to reinstate the idea that there can be accountability for Stephen Miller, for the corruption, for the breaking the law, for Kristi Noem and the Hatch Act. Like, Kristi Noem right now at airports is just, there's a video that's like the normal video when TSA's there. You see that Mayorkas was there before, and now you see Kristi Noem. And just somebody talking about the importance of the safety, whatever, fine. And now she's saying the Democrats in it. That's illegal. You're not allowed to do it. But because there's nobody who goes and enforces that, they think they can do everything. And so, man, I will tell you, the only way out of this is if Democrats do win, I would like them to have a serious discussion about reining in executive power. It's very hard to do when it is your team who's in charge, but that is part of what is going to be required, is rolling back executive power.
I hear you. Do you want to know what I thought was funny about the piece now?
Yeah, tell me what's funny about the piece.
I'm going to read the piece. It's a perverse humor, which is my specialty. It goes into sort of the differences between Trump 1.0, Trump 2.0. And Josh Dawsey writes, in Trump's first term, aides kept Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from working on anti-vaccine effort after he met with Trump at Trump Tower. You might remember that in 2017. This time, Kennedy is the Health and Human Services Secretary, and Trump is willing to go even further. This is where it got dark and humorous for me, I guess. Minutes before Trump, in an Oval Office news conference, repeatedly instructed pregnant women not to take Tylenol and offered his thoughts on changing the childhood vaccine schedule, Kennedy tried to talk him out of making such broad proclamations about childhood vaccines, advisors said. Trump didn't listen. Instead, he said he believed the schedule needed to change. So he's so crazy. He's too crazy even for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on vaccines. That's the shit we're in.
Yeah, because he doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about their kids. He doesn't care what happens to anybody. And Sam, let's just talk for a second. I want to contrast this. I'm watching a lot of people today feel like they got to hand it to Trump. They feel like they got to say, hey, Trump really helped get these hostages home and broker this peace deal in the Middle East. Now, I want to tell you, I am thrilled the hostages are home. I'm heartbroken for the children who've lost their lives. But I am glad that there is this ceasefire, that there's going to be humanitarian aid, that we might be working our way out of this. The idea, though, that Donald Trump's, smart, strategic mind on this, really, I object to that line of thinking, but because I don't think Donald Trump, other than pursuing his Nobel Peace Prize, does not care about what anyone is doing. And also he made a lot of big bombastic claims about how he would immediately be ending things, both the Israel, Palestine, but also Ukraine and Russia, which of course he has not done. And so let's not go overboard in having to hand it to him. But it also smacks to me of, look, the guy's president of the United States who's basically taken unilateral authority. He ought to be able to get a couple things done that aren't terrible. But that doesn't negate. I don't think people should talk about the wins without the context of the fact that he currently is sending troops into American cities for no reason, even when judges have told him it's wrong. The idea that you have to say, to be a good neutral observer or just a good balls and strikes type, that Donald Trump really got this one. No, but I just think we should be circumspect before we give him too much credit personally for these things.
No, totally hear you. I had a really interesting conversation actually with Dan Shapiro right before you and I got on to talk. Dan is the former ambassador to Israel under Joe Biden. We talked a bit about this, what actually facilitated the end to the conflict, and the sort of psychic blow that it took on both, obviously Gaza and Israel, but also on the U.S. foreign policy apparatus, like what it means for managing that region and affecting the U.S.-Israel relationship. And it's deeply complicated. Obviously, a lot of things went into this. One of them may have been Trump, but he's not solely responsible for getting us to this point. There's a variety of different factors, including the other Arab states, Israeli leadership, Hamas. They had to be brought to the table somehow at some point. So I encourage people to listen to that, as I do encourage people to subscribe to our feed, where you can get stuff like this. Sarah, see, it's not so bad being on with me. It's not so bad.
We didn't even talk about the second article, though. I was like,
well, the second article was just a second, like a reiteration of the first, right? It was just sort of like, oh, Congress is lame. Why? Did you have other thoughts on that?
Well, I just had one thought. Can I just, I'll close with
let me set it up this, because the second article is a Washington Post piece, kind of the same, but it's mostly focused on the appropriations process and how Trump has given Congress the middle finger on that one too. It's called Congress Losing Its Grip on the Power to Spend America's Money. What did you think about that one? Why did that get your goat?
Here's why. And I'm going to apologize in advance. This is a very political science-y take, but I just do want to reiterate something. I've talked about this before, but it's important to me. The thing about Congress lying down is that our system is literally built on the idea that the ambition of each of the branches of government, right? Our separation of powers, our checks and balances, they are predicated on the idea that the ambition of each branch will counteract the ambition of the others. Our checks and balances rely on having a Congress that is obsessed with its own power, that is protective of its own power. When you lose that, we lose the fundamental checks and balances that guide our system, that undergird liberal democracy, American liberal democracy. It's a very fundamentally American idea of these checks and balances. And when you have a Supreme Court, but most importantly, a Congress, when you have a Congress that does not do its job, that allows Trump to do pocket rescissions and to control the power of the purse and to decide everything and ignore things that Congress did, like TikTok's illegal, like, when those things happen, we do not have an American government with checks and balances anymore. And so that is why 100%. I want to talk about that.
Well, and also, and I'll just say this, it's like this whole government shutdown debate has centered around healthcare and the Obamacare subsidies and whether this is the appropriate vehicle for cutting a deal or not on that. And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because to me, I mean, obviously that stuff's important. But like fundamentally, if they are going to pursue a policy of rescissions, if they're going to disrespect Congress's authority to make a deal on appropriations, if they're going to say you can pass a spending bill with 60 votes in the Senate, but we'll just undo it with 50 votes, then what the hell is the incentive to cut any deal at all? Like, why would a Democrat say, yeah, sure, I agree to this level, knowing fully well that in 2 weeks, Mike Johnson will just say, you know what, let Donald Trump decide what to spend and whatnot. So
that's right.
I just don't get it. Like, have some dignity as a lawmaker. If you can't protect your institution on this very basic ground, then your institution will have no authority. Zip.
And that is, they do seem to have decided they do not care about their own dignity.
They don't care. It's crazy. All right, Sarah, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Everyone subscribe to the feed where you get great conversations like this. Talk to you soon.